So don't worry about the boring title, but we are going to talk about property protection trusts today. So what they are, why we use them, how can it help you, your family, and your friends. So just let me set a picture for you first. I'll say, trying to move it on. There we go. So set the scene. You got me, my wife, Margot, beautiful kids, and a house. So that's where we are. And we've been really good and we've made a will, a nice simple mirror will. So there's me and Margot again, just in case you forgot that I married her. But unfortunately, I died. Reasons unknown, but I died. So under the mirror will, all my money, because I'm obviously minted, goes to my lovely widow. But unfortunately, she dies as well. So as per the mirror will, all my money goes to our beautiful children who are set up for life with all our millions. So everyone's happy, everything's worked as we thought it would, and everyone's kind of crack on with life because this kind of stuff happens. However, here we are again. I die again. Money, house goes to Margot, but Margot then remarries some other bum chum who is there. So then Margot dies, and obviously in the new will, all the money in the house goes to this guy. This guy dies, money, house, all goes to his little entitled child. And if you're wondering, if you could type in entitled child into Google, that's what you get. So there you go. So what happens to my two wonderful children? Well, potentially they'll get nothing because Margot's remarried and everything's then gone to his side of the family. So our children, in effect, inherit nothing. We call this second marriage syndrome, or sideways disinheritance. So this is where surviving spouse remarries. Wills either change or don't change, depending on how the assets are held. Then all the children from the first marriage potentially end up with nothing, and all the money's lost out of the family and goes somewhere where originally you probably would want it to go. How can we prevent this? The clue was in the title of the presentation, and it is by doing a property protection trust. So if we do a property, I'll come on to explain property protection trust, but if we just rerun the example. So me and Margot again, we made a simple mirror will, but this time we put a property protection trust in there. So we fly through, I die, Margot dies, all the money goes to this new fella. He dies. So now, the entitled child, there she is, she will still receive some money because obviously the property protection trust is only looking after the property. So she will probably end up receiving some money, which could potentially be my original money. But our two lovely, wonderful children, who are going to be superstars, still get the house. So we have protected ourselves or our children so that they will still be able to inherit funds or at least a property. So how does it work? So what we do is we split the property 50-50. So you own it as tenants in common. So when you buy a house, there's normally a tick box from the solicitor that says joint tenants, tenants in common. 99% people tick joint tenants because that's what they're always told to do, and it's the easiest way to do it. So we split the tenancy. So you then own it 50-50. So I own 50% and Margot owns 50%. On my death, my 50% will go into trust for the children. Which means then if Margot does remarry, that 50% is always protected for the children and they can't change that. And on her death, the same way, 50% will go to the children. Obviously, she could change that post my death, but realistically, most people wouldn't. But if she does, then at least we've saved 50% for the two original children. Children will then inherit the property as a minimum, so we reduce the sideways disinheritance. Money outside the property isn't protected, but you can form other trusts if you do them whilst living and you know you don't need the funds to for your life, or you've just got a set pot of money set aside for the children. You can put that into trust to protect that as well. You can't always prevent the surviving spouse from changing their will, but the 50% will always be protected. So a property protection trust not only used to protect against sideways disinheritance and second marriage syndrome, as we like to call it, because it sounds a bit cooler. It can also be used to help protect against care home fee costs and them eradicating what's in the estate. So this time, poor Margot goes into care after Ever Insane, so she's gone into care. We made a property protection trust, and now I've actually died as well in this situation. So I've died. If we hadn't done the property protection trust, the care home assessment for the fees would take into account the whole property. Whereas if we do the property protection trust, they can only take into account 50% property, because the other 50% property, because I've now died, is in trust for the children, so it's actually owned by the children and the trust. So they can only actually put a charge against half the property. However, if we both ended up in care, then it kind of doesn't work, but that's unfortunate. But also, if I'm still alive and Margot goes into care, the property can't be used anyway because I'm still living there, so the property is still being used for one of the occupants. They can't actually use it. Common questions we get about a property protection trust. Can I downsize? So don't you think about your parents, or you're living in a bigger house? Most people will downsize at some point. With the property protection trust, yes, you can downsize still. Obviously, if you're both alive, it's really simple. So you just downsize and then you update your will with the new property, and you make sure you buy the new property 50-50, tenants in common. Also, if one of the people have died, so the property is already in a property protection trust, or 50% of it is, you can still downsize. Just that if you went from, say, £400,000 to £200,000, £100,000 of the money on the sale of your house will go into the trust. So it stops anyone trying to downsize to get rid of money which could be lost sideways. Can my children force me to sell the house? No, is the simple answer. So whilst you're still alive, they can't force a sale of the property. Move house, kind of did that one. You can still get finance and mortgages as well. So with both people alive, the property protection trust isn't actually enforced until one of the deaths. And you can still get finance after one of the deaths, but it's a little bit harder and a bit more complicated. So it's something to bear in mind. When a partner dies and it's going into trust, you can still stop the trust, but you just need to bear in mind your financial, mortgage situation, or equity release situation as well. Does it impact inheritance tax? No. So you still get to use both allowances. It just changes when you use the allowances. But you still get, so as a general rule, you get £325,000 each, so £650 overall as a couple. But then what a lot of people don't know is that you get a nil rate residency band as well if you own a property. So both people in the couples get £175,000 each. So effectively, you've got £1 million limit before you have to pay IHT, which is why you always see it in headlines that it's all about its £1 million allowance, which there is there for most people who are property owners. Obviously, if you're not a property owner, you've only got the £650. How much it costs to set up? So we charge £650 to set it all up. That's including the wills. And then, is it legal? Yes, it is legal. It's been tested in courts. It's been challenged in courts, and it's always passed. This isn't kind of what you might see online, like bloodline trusts, where you try to get the property out your estate straight away and still live there because they continuously fail. And you end up paying a lot of tax. So it's a really simple way to protect your estate against sideways disinheritance or potential mounting care home fees. And we have an offer as well. So until the end of this year, anyone in this group or your close family and friends can get some discounts. I'll send these all out to you so you don't need to write them all down. And we also will help you set up LPAs as well, which is something that, I'll be honest, you can do yourself online. But if you want some help, then we can do that with you as well, or point you in the right direction. So just you and your close family until the end of the year. Any questions? Oh, Jesus. Tina, you were first, I think.
What's an LPA?
Oh, Power of attorney. So lasting power of attorney. Sorry,
Okay.
I had a complete mind blank then. Sorry.
Thank you very much. That was great.
No worries. Dale, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, the lasting power of attorneys, it said, I think the cost was it £100?
Yeah.
Does that cover the health one and the finances? Or is it just
we'll set both up.
So it's £100 for both health and finances per person.
Yeah, per person, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
They still, when you register them, you have to still pay the £86 for each one to the Office of Public Guardian. Any more questions, anyone? Well, I've explained it so well, it's great. Laura?
That thing you just said, the Office Public Guardian thing, is that a annual thing, or is that a one-off? How does that work?
So it's just a one-off fee when you register the lasting power of attorney. So you just pay it on registration of the document.
Excellent. Thank you.
Simon, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. If the worst does happen to you, did you want to give me Margot's number now so I can make sure she's okay, obviously, because she's going to be very distraught and upset. But I'll take one for the team and just look after her.
No worries, I'll send it you privately. I don't want too much competition around her.
Sorry, it wasn't sensible.
Stella?
No, I was just going to say, for anybody that's thinking about leading a power of attorney, I would have been up the Khyber without a paddle if I hadn't have had legal power of attorney for both my parents. And I've got them for finances and for health and wellness. So get it sorted, because do it now rather than wait, because it's invaluable. Thank you, Martyn.
No, I concur, Stella. Laura?
Just to echo what Stella said, my granddad would be turning his grave right now, so we're currently selling his house to pay for Nan's care. And we could have had this all sorted had it not been for my mum and my aunt falling out. So it is so important, you know, just to put all that family nonsense aside, isn't it? And just because actually my granddad worked so hard, and he would have preferred that some of that money go to his children. And it probably won't now, because Nan's physically okay, but mentally not well. So she, you know, she could last for years and years and years with dementia, and, you know, the house probably be gone by then. So, yeah, very important. Thank you, Martyn.
No worries, Ben?
So I'm 39 and I don't die till I'm 80s, 90s, whatever. What, because my mum and dad will have gone, my brother and sister have got their own busy lives. How paperwork, what happens to the paper if people have forgotten what they've got, what's to help them get back in there?
So if you've died and I assume you've wrote a will at this point.
Let's say I've got a will, power of attorney.
So we would always
all sorted, but I just don't know where things are.
So so that's a problem that's common. So what happens is your executives or your power of attorneys will come to your place of where you live, and they'll just have to search through and try to find everything. So it's why we always recommend you have a death file. I'm sure I could think of something much nicer to call it, but we have a death. So we tell all our clients to have a death file where they keep everything in one place, even if it's just a crib sheet of what they've got, because then you know where to contact to send death certificates and things like that to. Bank statements are the first thing to go to as well, because all your direct debits are on there, and you'll be able to see where money's coming from or going in and out of. So that's normally a good starting point. But yeah, generally we have a estate planning form as well, which we give to people, which kind of says, you know, even things like social media accounts, getting them closed down could be a nightmare. What pensions they've got, what investments they've got, what bank accounts they've got, national savings, so they can have it all in one place ready.
But so for example, this is plain devil's advocate. If I don't do that, and I don't somebody like yourself, then family and people that need to sort things out, they can't access it because they don't know what it is.
So use the government. The first thing they'll do is use the government one-stop service, where they can just send and notify the death, and that does all the government side of it and all the local things like that. And then aside from that, they'll literally just have to spend a lot of time figuring out where stuff is, and they will probably miss something. And then that's why there's loads of dormant bank accounts now.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact number, but it was getting, I think it's over £1 billion worth of money is in dormant bank accounts because people haven't claimed it. So after a certain amount of time, that they get closed down, and then the money is just lost to the family. So it will literally be that if they can't, they'll do their best attempt to find everything. So they probably know where you bank, or they'll ask friends or business people that you've interacted with.
Yeah.
But it's a long process if you don't set it up properly. I did my granddad's this year, and he was really organised, being the finance guy he was, and we'd already spoke about where everything was, and that still took 4 months to go through the process of closing every single account down that he had.
Scary that just if you don't have those little things in place, that it can take your family years to sort out.
Yeah, kind of. It's probably like a morbid point, but it's kind of like your legacy as well. So the last thing that people remember of you is what it was like dealing with your estate. I'm not saying that's their lasting memory of you, but it's the last thing that you've left them is what your estate is and how well it was managed. So if that's a complete mess and it turns into family arguments, it's kind of a bit of a tarnish on your life almost.
I think that's what
Which sounds really horrible.
Years ago. Yeah.
I jump in and just kind of reinforce is the right word, what Martyn said. When my mum passed away, it was quite sudden over a period of about 5 weeks, because she was well and then she was unwell. And thank goodness she was a really, really, really organised person. And she had a file with all of, not very secure, but she had an old-fashioned file with all of her passwords for everything written down. And it made it as simple as possible to go through that process. Had she not had that, I can't even imagine what would have, I don't even know where we would have started. Not that she had like loads of anything, but just the basics. So I think what Martyn's saying there is so key, in that you do need to get organised with, the basics and then these things. And it's not always an easy kind of topic to bring up with, anyone really. But, like Martyn said, what you leave is what you leave, and it's how organised you are. It's not about the kind of bricks and mortar as to what you're actually leaving people with in the short term. So thanks, Martyn. That was really good.
No worries. Just to reinforce another point from Stella as well, getting it done, it's the kind of thing that everyone puts off. We all put this kind of stuff off, but realistically, we don't know when our time is our time. So unfortunately, accidents do happen, things can happen. So if it's not sorted and you've got children or you've got a business, which we will have here, then those things can be at jeopardy, because what will happen to your business if you lose mental capacity or you're in a coma? If someone hasn't got the power of attorney in place for your business, then that business won't run. Equally, if it's only a temporary thing where you're out for 6 weeks in hospital and you can't do anything, what will happen in that 6 weeks? Not a lot can happen if you haven't got the power of attorney in place. And then children, obviously if the father's still alive, it makes it a little bit easier. But if you both go together, which can happen, where will your children go to? They could end up in care, or there could be an argument about who looks after them, if it's grandparents or brothers and sisters on both sides. And there's nothing that's written down or established. So act now rather than later. That's my final point. Thank you.